Hello everyone, today we are going to study about the imperfect competition. This is the last video in the series of market structure. In the previous two videos, in the first video we have studied about the market structure. In the second video we have studied about the perfect competition, and in this particular video we are going to study in detail about the imperfect competition. So we know, based on the previous videos, the market structure is classified into two parts: the perfect competition and imperfect competition. And in imperfect competition, we have monopoly, monopolistic, and oligopoly competition. So we are going to study about these competitions in detail. So, what is a monopoly? The word has been derived from a Greek word which means a single seller, and if I talk about the definition of monopoly, it is used to cover any effective power control, whether of supply or demand of services or goods. It is used to mean a combination of manufacturers or merchants to control the supply price of commodities or services. So basically, monopoly refers to the control over supply. So monopoly in technical language can be said, pure monopoly is a single firm industry where the cross elasticity of demand between its product and the product of other industries is zero. But the concept of pure monopoly rarely exists in reality. However, pure monopolies was seen as a rare phenomena in developed countries, like they are found in developing countries in India, like 20 years ago, in the form of state monopolies like Mahanagar Telephone Nigam Limited, Post and Telegram Department of India, Government of India. So the characteristics of monopolies is there should be a single producer of the commodity, there should be absence of competition, there are no close substitute for a monopoly product, cross elasticity of demand for a monopoly product is zero. So monopolistic firm has control over supply of its commodity, and there is no distinction between the firm and the industry. And the cases of pure monopolies are not found in developed countries. However, they are found in developing countries. So a monopolistic will prevent entry of new firms in the long run. And there is one more concept of monopsony. So it consists of market condition that is heavily influenced by a single buyer. So it is opposite of monopoly. It is a market condition with only one seller. Now, the monopolistic competition, it is a market situation in which there are many sellers of a particular product, but the product of each seller in somewhat way differentiated in the mind of consumer from the product of every other seller. So features is there are a large number of firms, and each firm must control a small yet significant portion of the market share. There is product differentiation. Each seller produces very close substitute products. So the product is neither identical nor different, since every seller produces slightly differentiated product. So each seller has a minor control over price. Then there is absence of interdependence. The individual firm supply is small constituent of total supply, and therefore the individual firm has a limited control over price level. Each firm can decide its price or output policies independently through price discrimination. Now, the competitive advertisement is an essential part of monopolistic competition. So selling costs become an integral part of the marketing of the firms. And under monopolistic competition, a new firm can enter or can exit, and there are no restrictions on entry or exit. The assumptions of monopolistic competition says there are significant number of sellers as well as buyers in the market, and the product of sellers are separated. However, they are close substitute of one another. So there is free entry as well as exit of organization in the group, and the objective of the firm is to maximize profit both in the short run as well as in the long run. Now, the relationship between the average revenue and marginal revenue in monopoly and monopolistic competition. So the relationship shows that marginal revenue will be always greater than, sorry, the average revenue will be greater than the marginal revenue. So in both the competition, a firm has to reduce the prices of its product if it wants to sell more, and as a result average revenue and marginal revenue curves of the firm become the downward sloping, and this is like law of demand. More is purchased at a lower price, and it can be seen in the following schedule and figure as well, that we can see that in the schedule both marginal revenue and average revenue is falling, but the fall of marginal revenue is double that of the average revenue. So marginal revenue falls by 2 units, whereas average revenue falls by 1 unit. So, so as a result of this, marginal revenue curve is below than the average revenue curve. So marginal revenue is less than the average revenue. Average revenue is greater than the marginal revenue. We can see over here the units sold, the total revenue, and we can compute average revenue by dividing total revenue over the units sold, and the marginal revenue is the additional unit sold. And when we will plot the graph, so this particular character, we will see that average revenue will be greater than the marginal revenue, and the curve will come out to be like this. So the demand curve in monopoly and monopolistic competition, they both are similar, but the demand curve in monopoly is a less elastic demand curve, whereas the demand curve in monopolistic, it is a more elastic demand curve because there is more competition. A slight change in price will have a major impact on the quantity demanded. So both are the negatively sloped, which indicate that larger amount of commodity can be sold at a lower price. However, demand curve under monopoly is less elastic because there are no close substitute. Why? The demand curve in monopolistic are more elastic since there are many substitutes available in the market. So the price determination under monopoly says that we can see the average revenue and marginal revenue curves in monopoly. So in we have seen the average revenue curve and marginal revenue curves in monopoly. They both coincide and forms a horizontal line, while in monopoly the marginal revenue curve does not coincide with the average revenue curve and it remains below it. So the short run case 1, the case of supernormal profit, the case where average revenue will be greater than the short run average cost. So in this particular case in monopoly, we will see first we will plot the axis. On y-axis price revenue cost, on an axis quantity is there. Then we will plot the average revenue line and the marginal revenue line. Then afterwards we will have to compute the equilibrium point by drawing short run marginal cost, and at the point where short run average marginal revenue short run marginal cost curve line cuts the marginal revenue line from below, that is the equilibrium point. Now there should be entry of short run average cost to decide whether it is a super normal profit, normal profit, or loss. So when the average revenue is greater than the short run average cost, then the condition is of profit. So we can see in the plotted graph that BPEC is the profit because average revenue is greater than the short run average cost. So short run monopoly equilibrium we have seen at point E, where the short run marginal cost curve cuts the marginal revenue from below. So monopolistic says the OM output at MP price and super normal profit is BCEP. Now the short run case 2, normal profit, where average revenue will be equal to the short run average cost. So at normal profit, that is the break even point, no profit, no loss situation, the average revenue curve will be equal to the short run average cost. So similarly, we on y-axis price revenue cost, on x-axis output, then we will draw the average revenue in the demand curve line, marginal revenue line, and then we will plot the short run marginal cost and the point at which the short run marginal cost and marginal revenue is equal, that is the equilibrium point. Now the entry of short-run average cost, the point at which the short-run average cost is equal to the average revenue line, then it is the normal profit case. So this is the equilibrium point, short-run average cost, marginal cost line, cutting the marginal revenue line, equilibrium point, we'll draw a straight line over there. So this is the equilibrium level, and the point at which the short-run average cost is equal to the average revenue line. So this is the point. So it is the case of normal profit. So equality of short-run marginal cost curve and marginal revenue curves at point E determines OM output, which should be sold at which price? MP price. Since the short-run average cost curve is tangent to the average revenue curve, at this level of output, the monopolistic will earn the normal profit. Then the case of loss, where the average revenue will be less than the short-run average cost. So minimum loss is also known as subnormal profit, and the condition says average revenue will be less than short-run average cost. So similarly, earlier the graphs we have plotted, first the axis, then average revenue, marginal revenue, then the short-run marginal cost, which will determine the equilibrium point. Now, if the average revenue is less than the short-run average cost, it means short-run average cost is greater than the average revenue. So we can see the loss area over here. CAPB is the loss area over here. And this is the loss, in the plotted area is the loss area, because average revenue line is less than and short-run average cost is more than the average revenue line. So the next case is long run case in monopoly competition. In monopoly competition, a firms always earns super normal profit or abnormal profit. So long run equilibrium of monopolistic firm is attained at that level of output where its marginal cost equals to marginal revenue. And here in long run, monopoly firms get the abnormal profit. It is because the new firms are not allowed to enter the market, and the monopoly firm does not suffer loss in the long run, because all cost in the long run is variable cost, and these must be recovered. So in case of monopoly, firm fails to recover the variable cost in the long run, it would better to stop the production and quit the market. Similar graphs is there, and so we have to see in long run average cost curve is first we will plot the graphs like this. We will draw average revenue, marginal revenue, then long run marginal cost. So this will be the equilibrium point, at the point at which marginal revenue is equal to the long run marginal cost. Then the entry of long run average cost, and the long run average cost is less than the average revenue. That is why the case of supernormal profit is there in the long run. So more clear view of the graphs. Now the price determination under the monopolistic competition. So in monopolistic competitive market, since the product is differentiated between the firms, so demand curve of the firm will be highly price elastic, and each firm is a price maker and is in a position to determine price of its own product. So a firm is faced with a downward sloping demand curve for its product, and the demand curve is more elastic. So the first case in short run is the case of supernormal profit. Repeatedly I have said that the supernormal profit is a condition where average revenue is greater than short run average cost. So how the graphs of monopoly and monopolistic competition is differentiated, because in monopolistic competition there are many competitors, so the demand curve is more elastic, and we can see the more elastic demand curve. So the average revenue and demand curve is drawn, then the marginal revenue curve has been drawn, and then the we will draw short run marginal cost to determine what? To determine the equilibrium point. So the point at which the short run marginal cost is equal to the marginal cost and it is cutting from below, then it is the case of equilibrium point. Now if now the short run average cost, we will plot the graph of average short run cost, and if the short run average cost is less than the average revenue line, so we can see over here, this is the average revenue line and short run average cost is this, and this is the equilibrium condition. So we can see at this particular condition the firm will earn supernormal profit, that is A, E, B and E. This is the case of supernormal profit. Because why? Because average revenue curve is more than the short run average cost curve. So the firm maximizes profit at point where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, and marginal cost cuts marginal revenue from below, that is the point of equilibrium. So total revenue is OPB Q and the cost incurred it OAEQ to produce the equilibrium of OQ. So the total profit earned by the firm is AEBP. Now the case of normal profit, that is the break-even point where average revenue is equal to short run average cost. The same graphs we will plot: price revenue cost on y-axis, quantity on x-axis. Then we will plot a more elastic demand curve, average revenue curve, marginal revenue curve. Then in order to determine the equilibrium condition, we will plot short run marginal cost, and this is the where the point marginal revenue is equal to short run marginal cost, and marginal revenue is cutting the short run marginal revenue, short run marginal cost is cutting the marginal revenue line from below, then this is the equilibrium point. Now the average revenue is equal to short run cost, short run average cost. So this is the average revenue line and short run average cost is equal, so extending the equilibrium point. So this is the point of normal profit. So equilibrium point occurs at E. The total revenue earned by the firm is by selling OQE quantity is a rectangular area OQBPE, and the total cost producing is given by the area OQBPE. Okay. So the profit being the difference between the total revenue and total cost, and it is nil. So the firm in this case is neither making economic profit nor loss. So it is a case of normal profit. Then the case of loss or subnormal profit. Similarly, similar graphs, first two graphs will be similar. Then we will introduce short run average cost. If short run average cost is less than the short run, average revenue, we can see the short run average cost is greater than the average revenue. The short run average cost is this and average revenue line is this and equilibrium line is this. So in this particular condition, the firm will be earning subnormal profit or the loss. So A, P, E, C, B is the loss condition. So remember this thing very clearly. After the introduction of short-run average cost, it is decided whether the firm is earning supernormal profit, normal profit, or losses. So this is the explanation of it that I have explained in the graph only. So in long run, in monopolistic competition, a firm earns normal profit. So in long run, the same situation will exist for a monopolistic competition as in for perfect competition, which has been explained in the earlier video. So all firm will earn only normal profit. So no profit, no loss situation, they will achieve to the break-even points. Now the oligopoly competition, this type of market condition is the most appropriate in today's economy, and it is characterized by the mutual interdependence upon the few sellers who have the total control over the market supply. So oligopoly is a market condition in between monopoly and monopolistic competition in which number of sellers is more than one, but it is not so large that the market price is not influenced by any one of them. So characteristics is small number of sellers, but they are interdependent on each other. selling homogeneous as well as differentiated products, and other sellers adopt a uniform price policy due to the uniformity of the product. And as the activities of all seller are interdependent, the seller prefer not to change the price of its product too often, and the entry as well as exit of the organization is relatively difficult because of the non availability of raw material, and the all organization operating in the market are not precisely similar to each other, and the demand curve is extremely unpredictable in oligopoly competition. An organization cannot predict its demand curve because it is extremely difficult to predict whether or not the competitor will change their policies of the organization. So many oligopolist industries exhibit price rigidity or stability. Price rigidity refers to a tendency of no change in the prevailing price, and the price rigidity may be due to the following reason, like oligopolistic industry has reached to the stage of maturity. The firms might have learned by experience that price war is harmful, and the firms have found satisfactory price level, or the firms have realized that they cannot increase their profit by lowering the price because other firm may follow the price and cut by the firm, and instead of reducing price the firm may compete by non-price competition. So the demand curve facing an oligopolist according to the kink demand curve hypothesis has a kink at the level of prevailing prices. So the kink is formed at a prevailing price level because the segment of demand curve above the prevailing price level is highly elastic, and the segment of demand curve below the prevailing price level is inelastic. So the difference in elasticities is due to the particular competitive reaction pattern assumed by the kinky demand curve hypothesis. So each oligopolist believes that if he lowers the price below the prevailing level, its competitor will follow him and will accordingly lower the prices. Whereas if he raises the prices above the prevailing prices, its competitor will not follow its increase in prices. So here we can see the kinked demand curve. So that's all for today. Thank you so much. I hope you have understood about the market structure, about all types of competition, the price determination of all types of competition, that is the perfect competition, monopolistic competition, monopoly competition, and the oligopoly competition.